Our guest today, Luke Pryor, is a nutritional balancing practitioner using hair mineral analysis using Dr. Lawrence Wilson's protocols. His website is interbalance.com, and he has a new website called life.net, liiife.net. After discovering Dr. Wilson's work and healing his own health with his program, he decided to get certified in nutritional balancing science, which I decided to do the same. I was so impressed with the program. He works with clients around the globe, including many children, and he aims to spread the word and help people heal themselves at a deep level using nutritional balancing science. Hi, Luke. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey Wendy, thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your background, how you got into hair mineral analysis, etc.
Well, my name is Luke, and I am a nutrition practitioner here in Northern California. I got into it because my own health fell apart. That was the biggest reason. I was involved in a lot of different athletic type of endeavors. I was into powerlifting, and I was doing MMA and jiu-jitsu and that type of stuff, and playing basketball with my friends and stuff like that. And basically, I just kind of wore myself out. I developed brain fog. I wasn't, following the best diet. I was taking nasty pre-workouts. God knows what's in them.
Yeah.
Protein powders, that type of, bro science type stuff.
Yeah.
I just kind of wore me out, and I got brain fog, and I was tired all the time. I found myself taking naps at work. I didn't have much motivation and things like that. And I actually worked at a gym, and I noticed that my brain fog, it really cleared when I was using the sauna. And that was really the only time I didn't have bad brain fog. And it was only for 20 minutes, but it was amazing. And so I was using the sauna anytime I could. And I started researching more about sauna therapy, and then eventually I came upon a man by the name of Dr. Wilson. And
That's how everyone finds his site. That's how I found it.
Yeah. And then I read more about hair analysis and the work of Dr. Eck and all this type of stuff. And I did my own program through another practitioner, and I liked the results I got, and I really wanted to do it myself. And so after about 6 months of my own program, I became a practitioner, and I've been doing it ever since for about 2.5, 3 years now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're going to talk today about children's health. What are you noticing today about children's health? Because I'm testing a lot of children, and they're in trouble. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on with children's health today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm noticing the same things you're noticing. Not to be a pessimist, but it is a little bit disheartening when when you truly understand hair mineral analysis, like I'm sure you do, and you see firsthand the state of the children's bodies today, even the very young children. People talk about adrenal burnout and things like that, and they talk about it in regards usually to older people, and I look at hair tests of children, they're 3 years old and they're already in what we call burnout.
Yeah.
And the situation is definitely, it seems to be getting worse, unfortunately. I think there is more awareness being brought to the issue as we see more developmental disorders and things like autism and things like that. I think there are more, there's more info for parents than ever before, but unfortunately, it's difficult to know. One of the things that I run into is these children, they come from good families, right? They're eating a pretty good diet, drinking spring water, they're, low stress levels, the mom stays at home, they're homeschooled. They're doing all the things you'd really consider right, and yet the children, it's not enough, unfortunately. And but hopefully, we can reverse this course, definitely.
And how does this happen? Isn't it because the mother is depleted and toxic, and then she passes that on to her child? Could you talk a little bit about, how does this happen? How are kids in burnout today?
Yeah, well, obviously it depends on the age of the child. If you test the hair of a newborn, it's basically all due to the health of the mother. But if you test a 2 or 3 year old, it is partially due to the things they're feeding the child, and their vaccination schedule and things like that. Stress levels in the house. Different factors like that. And but yeah, probably in regards to very young children, the biggest single important factor, like you mentioned, is the health of the mother. And the people in general are getting less and less healthy, and so the mothers are obviously getting less and less healthy, and so the children are getting less and less healthy. Yeah, for some reason, in our society, we don't, we don't pay much attention to how the health of the mother really affects the health of the child, and you can see it I'm sure you've seen it yourself with your clients and yourself. You look at the hair test of the mother, and then you look at the hair test of the child, and they'll be very similar. They'll have the
Yeah.
same toxicities, same deficiencies. They'll even have the same type of patterns, like four lows and things like that. And
Yeah. Yeah, I find that so interesting. And when I see test a child that the mother's concerned about their child, and I test them and they're in four lows or they're extremely copper toxic, I'm like, Mom, you need to test too because your test is going to look very, very similar to this.
and the health of the mother, it's a little bit more subtle, but the health of the mother does wear off on the child.
Yeah.
A lot of the children I see in four lows, the mother kind of has like a four lows personality. They tend to be very, they just worry about every little thing. You know what I mean? Even though they might be stay-at-home moms, and then they just worry about every little thing, and they're just constantly stressed. For no particular reason. You know what I mean? And that definitely that affects the child too. So the health. Sometimes I tell these mothers, you need to focus on your own program too,
Yes. Yeah.
because you're wearing off on your child too.
Yeah. Yeah, I just recently got some genetic testing done, and I have a genetic expression called BMHT. And when you have that, you can find that on a 23andMe. That means a woman is going to, or a person is going to have more internal stressing, and they need to do EFT, emotional freedom technique, or biofeedback to kind of release that internal stress that'll make people worry a lot. It manifests differently for different people, but I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And first of those, in regards to those techniques, one of the things I've been experimenting with, I don't know if you've ever heard of Elliot Hulse, but he does certain bioenergetic things, stuff like that, where you're releasing tension by doing deep breathing with exercises, and I'm getting some good reports from that. I don't like it with older people as much because you're bending the spine backwards, which can injure people. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting about your gene expression. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I'm getting more into genetics and things like that. But so, what can we do to produce healthy children today? What does a parent need to do to have a healthy child?
Well, the best thing is for them to start a program, preferably like a year before they get pregnant. The best is to really plan. You know what I mean? I don't think, it's harder to do when, if a woman just gets pregnant, especially, if she's not in a good, financial or, emotional situation. You know what I mean? And so ideally, I think it takes some planning a couple years ahead of time, because you got to save money, right? Plan ahead financially, and you got to be able to take time away from work. If you're a working mother, you have to prepare for that. And then also, nutritionally, I would prefer it if mothers started a nutrition program, using nutritional balancing about a year before they get pregnant. But just starting when you're pregnant is still excellent.
Yeah.
That still helps tremendously.
Yeah, and that's what I love is people can do a hair mineral analysis program like nutritional balancing or mineral power when they are pregnant. All the supplements are totally safe, except maybe the glandulars are up for debate, but they're very safe and produce very healthy children. We need minerals.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're watching this, just because you're halfway through your pregnancy doesn't mean you should avoid doing the program because you think it's too late. Start even if even if your due date's a week from now. Don't start now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What are some of the problems with the prenatal vitamins that most women are taking?
Well, first of all, they're inadequate. There's just not enough. Taking one multivitamin a day isn't going to do much in general.
Yeah.
Second problem is that they're not individualized for the mother. As I'm sure you're aware, certain mothers might be in what we call fast oxidation or slow oxidation or something like four lows, and they need a different multivitamin than other mothers. And the dosages also change depending on the hair test. So some mothers may need more zinc than others depending on their hair test.
Sorry, I'm watching a whale. He just jumped out of the water. Sorry.
On the ocean? Oh, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
I just watched a whale jump out of the water. It was amazing. Again.
Oh, yeah,
he's
I'm
jumping out
Wendy. I
again.
live by the ocean and watch whales jump out from my living room.
Yeah, well, they're migrating north right now. They're migrating up north, so every single day I'm seeing whales go by with their little babies. So it's really magical.
That's pretty cool. You can watch whales from your living
Yeah,
room.
well, I'm doing podcasting.
I'm a little bit jealous.
But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just shocked by that.
Yeah, and then what I was saying, it's just the dosages and the individualized programs. Certain mothers need zinc more than others. Some women, it depends on their chemistry, and they need higher dosages. Some women need more calcium, magnesium. Some women need more copper if they're in fast oxidation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to with prenatal care. What most doctors do is they just give one standard multivitamin, and then also the multivitamin usually has copper and iron in it, and most women don't need copper at that time. Most women are copper toxic and iron toxic, and so that's a problem as well. And also, doctors don't encourage healthy lifestyles and things like that. You know what I mean? Um, you know, a woman should be ideally be taking care of her body, from the moment she's born. You know what I mean? And so, a lot of women, they don't leave the most healthful lifestyle for the younger part of their lives, and then they get older and they finally settle down, and then they have children. You know what I mean? And so that's a problem as well. Is that prenatal care starts the whole life of the woman. That's definitely a problem as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance of detoxification prior to getting pregnant and using that as part of a pre-pregnancy planning routine?
Yeah. One thing we have to understand is that with women, the heavy metals pass right through the placenta to the child. And that's why we see the same toxicities on the hair test. It's because that child, in utero is receiving those same, toxicities. And so detox is fabulous. I say I like women to go on a program about a year ahead of time is because, it takes time to detox. And, coffee enemas are fantastic and the sauna therapy. We don't like sauna therapies while you're pregnant. I've never actually, I don't think there's been any studies done. It might be okay in low dosages, but in general, we don't have any data on it, so we like to avoid it.
Yeah, I think the fetus is just not able to cool down. Like if you get really heat up your body, the fetus isn't able to cool down. It can be problematic.
Yeah, definitely. And but coffee, even while you're pregnant, coffee enemas are fantastic, especially for like morning sickness and things like that. I get reports, definitely that, coffee enemas tremendously help with the toxicity feeling of morning sickness and things like that. And also, doing things like that, like we talked about before you get pregnant, and starting to remove those metals. And it's important to realize that the detox actually I wouldn't say is quite as important for a pregnant woman as getting enough minerals, because if she's getting enough minerals, it's kind of block the absorption into the child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because really detoxing the body takes years and years, but it's not necessarily necessary to produce a healthy child. If you just detox a little bit and you're really getting enough minerals, it tends to block most of the heavy metals from getting in there.
Oh,
You know what I
wow.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes a
'cause-
lot of sense. I mean, and I
yeah.
know I wish I had known about coffee enemas and detoxing when I had gotten pregnant, because the coffee enemas would have helped a lot with constipation, which many
Oh
women
yeah.
experience is miserable. And it's also so important to have a healthy child, to just remineralize your body, because the baby sucks all the minerals out of your body. And it can take you 18 months at least to regenerate and replenish those minerals if you're able to.
Oh yeah. It really depletes a woman. You actually when a woman's pregnant, it starts turning on certain hormones and stuff where the baby is almost like a parasite and it's just sucking stuff in. And I've seen women who aren't very healthy, and they'll start losing teeth.
Yep.
Bless you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard of that. That's in
yeah,
there's
yeah. When they
hair
start,
and
and their teeth start like shrinking as start sucking the minerals out.
yeah.
And so yeah, it takes definitely a concerted effort to shuttle enough minerals into the body.
Yeah, and
And
after my pregnancy, I developed adrenal and low thyroid functioning, to the point where it drove me to my doctor to seek treatment. What's wrong with me? I had this bad brain fog. It didn't go away. But that led
yeah,
me to nutritional balancing and Dr. Wilson's website, for which I'm very, very thankful. But that's a lot of what happens to a lot of women. They have a baby, and their
yeah,
health, their
happens a lot.
mental and physical health just tanks because they've lost so many minerals.
Yeah, and having a children is a huge stress on the body, emotionally, physically. It's a huge stress on the body, and most women's bodies today aren't healthy enough to handle that stress.
So let's talk about once you have the child, what kind of a diet should the child eat?
Um, Most children are in what we call fast oxidation. So most children until about the age of 10 need plenty of fat in their diet. They get a lot of fat from the breast milk. For preferably 2 or 3 years. So the first 2 or 3 years, the diet is preferably breast milk. Um, but even though they're being breastfed, we still like to crush up supplements into the breast milk.
Mm.
I tell this to clients all the time. It's kind of a mind trip in today's world. But if we put a mother on a program for 1 year, and then she gets pregnant, and then she stays on the program the whole time, and then she has the child, and then we test the hair of the newborn, that newborn will still need a couple supplements in low dosages, once or twice a day in the breast milk, you know. And so even in the breast milk, we like to grind up, some supplements to get even more minerals into the and also quality of breast milk is extremely important. It's important that the mother stays on a program because then the breast milk will be superior. You know what I mean? Because, the woman has to be producing, high quality breast milk to nourish the child. And, if she stays on her program, she'll have a lot better breast milk. But yeah, breastfeed for 2 or 3 years, and then we like what we call a fast oxidizer diet, which is plenty of fats, with every meal, and, lots of cooked vegetables, animal protein, twice a day. We don't like large fish because of the mercury, things like that. Avoiding wheat. Some whole grains are good, definitely. Things like blue corn and rice and things like that. Um, and
I think whole raw milk is important too.
yeah, exactly. Whole raw milk, or even raw cheese or yogurt, or any sort of dairy like that. And then goat's a little bit better, but raw cow's fine.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, those are important as well because they have lots of fat, too.
Yeah, and I agree with you that I think even babies need to be on supplements, and I think we need to be on supplements for life because, and a
Yeah.
lot of people don't want to hear that, but
Yeah.
our food supply is so deficient. Even if you eat an amazingly healthy organic diet, you're eating vegetables all day long, it's not enough. We just don't get the minerals we need from our food. Can you talk a little bit about that and what supplements that children need?
Um, yeah, and it helps. The diet helps definitely, but it's also important to realize that even though the diet helps, you really need higher dosages of vitamins and minerals to shift the body out of to shift the body out of four lows or slow oxidation. Shift the body out of certain metabolic patterns on a hair test. You can take a couple supplements and get more minerals and eat a high diet, but is it really enough to really shift the body out of a certain pattern? So that's important as well. Supplements that we like for children, first of all, is Paramin, which is a calcium magnesium supplement from the company that I use, Indomit. We just simply use Indomit because they seem to be the highest quality, and some of the products you can't really duplicate because they're in certain dosages, like the certain ratios of vitamins and minerals. But so the most important one is Paramin, which is a calcium magnesium supplement. Children need a lot of calcium magnesium. They're in fast oxidation, so they burn through it pretty quickly. And it has a very nice sedative effect on the children, a very parasympathetic effect. It helps them sleep while they grow and things like that. They're growing, obviously, and their whole structure is growing, so they need lots of calcium, lots and lots of calcium. People are often surprised, actually, by how much Paramin we give children. They're almost as high, for a 3-year-old as an adult. So that's the biggest one. As far as the dosages goes. Another important one that we usually give is something called limcumin, which is designed to raise the sodium-potassium ratio on a hair test. If this ratio is too high in a person, we give zinc. If it's too low, we give limcumin. And most children, the sodium-potassium ratio is very low, and so we're giving limcumin to help raise it, because certain vitamins and minerals, for the viewers, we give that because certain vitamins and minerals raise the sodium-potassium ratio and certain ones lower it. Zinc lowers it, so if it's too high, we give zinc. If it's too low, we give limcumin, which is zinc along with copper and manganese and a few other things. And so the children usually need limcumin, they need the calcium magnesium supplement, and they usually need something called SBF formula, which is basically a multivitamin, which is designed for fast oxidizers with a low sodium-potassium ratio, which is what most children are in.
Yeah.
They're usually in fast oxidation with that low sodium-potassium ratio.
Yeah, but
it depends.
that's why it's important to test because you never know. Some are in slow.
Yeah, some are slow. I see 3-year-olds and they're already in slow.
Yeah.
And so they need a different diet. They need less fat. They need, they don't need SBF formula. They need a different multivitamin. And, some of them are even in 4 lows where basically they just get Paramin.
Are there some other types of procedures that are helpful for children that can help them be healthier?
A good is, I'm sure the viewers are familiar with near-infrared sauna therapy now. We like to just use a single one of those bulbs and then just kind of shine it on the tummy for 10 to 15 minutes of the child. It has a parasympathetic effect on the child, and the child likes it, and it has a healing effect on the baby and the child as well. And then that is probably the major one, along with foot reflexology, which is basically just rubbing the feet of the child and twisting the toes a little bit and popping them, and mostly it's rubbing the feet in children. As far as procedures go for children, those are the two biggest things. Yeah.
How does the foot reflexology help the child?
Well, in your foot, it's part of the meridian system in the body. And so if the child is constipated or something like that, you can actually rub the colon area and stuff like that. And but in children, if they're on a program, they don't run into too many problems like that. So in general, it's better. It just helps. It just has a sort of like a calming and healing effect on the child, and they like it.
And it helps the detox too, right? Helps the body
Yeah, yeah, it
detox.
helps the detox a little too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what are some good ways to teach children good eating habits and good ways to disguise food, like healthy food? I know there's some cookbooks out there that help you to disguise spinach and whatnot.
Um, as far as disguising things, there's lots of different methods. Children preferably, if they like fat, can hide it with cheese and cream and things like that, like Parmesan cheese and stuff like that. And then also, being creative, and that, they also like to eat what the parents are eating usually. And so if they see that the parents are eating healthy, that helps as well. Children like simple meals. A lot of parents think that they need to get fancy. If you teach them young habits from an early age, it's a lot easier, I've noticed. If you set in the habits from an early age, that definitely helps tremendously as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I started feeding my child, freshly prepared food, and her baby food, red meats and vegetables and all kinds of things, because they stay with that palate. Those foods that they're exposed to very early on stick with
yeah.
them, and but if you feed them garbage, they're gonna have a palate for garbage.
Yeah, yeah, and you can use it. You can also use treats. A little bit. There's some healthy treats you can do. A little bit of almond butter. Carrot juice is kind of sweet. Some children like that. A good one is jicama. That's a good one because jicama has a consistency and kind of tastes like an apple, but it's actually a vegetable. And so you can take a jicama and put a little bit of like almond butter on it or something like that, and that's a pretty healthy snack. If they're used to getting like fruit or something.
So
Um,
when people are on this type of program, this nutritional balancing program, how long does it take children to recover and to heal?
well, luckily, children heal a lot faster than adults, just because they have a lot more vitality to begin with, because they're younger, obviously. But it depends on the child. So it can depend. But generally, children shift pretty quickly. Generally, by the second hair test, you're seeing a big improvement. I've seen, second hair test, where the first hair test was really bad, and then the second hair test, zinc shot way up, phosphorus was a way better level, um, all sorts of things, you know what I mean? And so children, yeah, you get huge swings usually with children a lot of times. There'll be four lows one test, slow oxidation the next test. What, but yeah, it could depend on the child. If they're starting out from a worse place, obviously it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But children in general heal quite quickly, especially compared to adults.
Yeah. Yeah, I always
Yeah,
tell adults about 2 to 3 years and children maybe about a year for them to correct their mineral levels and et cetera.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
And so what are some of the general benefits to children of doing a program like this?
Well, better mood, that's an important one. A lot of kids are like have what we call ADD, and they're somewhat irritable and things like that. The whole program is very parasympathetic. All that calcium, magnesium, the diet is very parasympathetic with the animal protein and things like that. And so, better mood and, better sleep and things like that. And one thing you have to understand is that if all the children are toxic and depleted, as we know, then if you put a child on a program, they're at a huge advantage in school and life. Because all the children are burnt out, and the school systems and the society is based around burnt out children. And so we're catering with everything to burnt out children. And so, and minerals affect everything. Your brain needs minerals to function. It needs selenium and zinc to think clearly, and so their brains start to work better. You know what I mean, and things like that, and they can pay better attention in school, and athletics as well. A lot of people like to put their children in athletic programs like soccer and stuff like that. And same situation as with the scholastic programs. All the children are burnt out, and so if you can heal your child, it'll put them at a huge advantage in basically every facet of life.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and I find that, that a lot of children that have autism or learning delays, they have mineral deficiencies. They have zinc deficiency. They need zinc for the frontal lobe of their brain to work, for them to be able to think clearly, etc. And they can if they don't have proper mineralization. Like with my daughter, she had really, really low zinc, high mercury and aluminum levels, and by correcting that, she improved, I mean, dramatically in just a year.
Yeah, people don't believe us when we say that we see autism disappear regularly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah,
does happen.
even delayed development, where the child is like somewhat like what you would call like somewhat retarded.
Yeah.
Even see that like help tremendously.
Yeah.
And it's sad because you read all these news stories where all these scientists are doing all this research on autism and they're trying to find the gene and things like that. Oh, we're getting close, but they're missing the whole. They're still not close at all.
Yeah,
And it gets
the whole point, it's mineral deficiencies and heavy metal and chemical toxicities. That is what's causing it, and that's the
yeah.
only thing that's going to correct it is the healthy mother and correcting it and catching it early in the child.
Yeah, and it's sad because it gets parents' hopes up and that they think they can. There's never going to be a cure for autism, and that and like a pill you're going to take or some sort of gene therapy or something like that. There's never ever going to be a cure, and you have to get back to the basics, which we're talking about. And they're all mineral, they're all zinc deficient, and they're all toxic with heavy metals. You have to take a systems approach. You're never going to be able to, yeah, but.
Yeah, but
Like I said,
yeah, for me, I was really fortunate that in discovering my own nutritional balancing program that I was doing at one point, and just when finally my daughter had a diagnosis of autism, I was able to reverse it within a very short period of time, within a 2-year period. Completely reversed her autism. She does not have a diagnosis of autism
yeah.
anymore, and so she doesn't get funding for school anymore. It's just kind of a bummer. Like, darn it, because paid for her very expensive schooling. But
Get her to act a little retarded.
yeah,
Like.
yeah, exactly. And so I'm sorry, we don't mean to offend anyone by saying that. But yeah, but you can dramatically improve diagnoses of autism and developmental delays and learning delays and retardation by just giving the body targeted nutrient therapy and detoxing the body. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
and people think they think you're crazy if you say like, yeah, I healed my autistic child. What?
Yeah.
That's not even doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine actually email me, it's really irresponsible of you to tell people that you're curing autism because you're
Yeah,
giving people false hope. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm not giving people false hope. I did it with my own child, and it can be done. The earlier you catch it, the better.
yeah. The earlier, exactly. The
Because
earlier, the
the
better.
later, at 5 and later, the brain is not as plastic, so you don't have is you don't you've missed that window. So
Yeah,
you're not going to have as good results after 5 years old. But
yeah.
prior to that, you can do a lot of improvement.
And people don't realize we're not doing much. And they say, oh, you can't say that you cured autism. Well,
No.
I mean, we didn't really cure it. We didn't give like a treatment or anything like that. We just gave the body what it needed,
Yeah.
and then it healed itself. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. And the body has tremendous healing powers as long as it gets the nutrients that it needs and you remove the toxins interfering in its
Yeah,
metabolic function. It's amazing what can happen.
yeah, exactly.
So
Definitely.
let's talk about, we touched on this a little bit, but why starting so young is important to build a foundation of health, at a young age.
Well, like you were talking about, there is an important window, and if it's much more difficult to heal an autistic 15-year-old than a 3-year-old. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't put your child on a program if they're a teenager, because it can still help tremendously, but it takes a lot longer. You might not get the expected results. You know what I'm saying? And when you start young, the body still has so much energy to work with that you can really reverse these things that people don't think are reversible.
Yeah.
And you're really building a foundation of health for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? Definitely.
Yeah, and I think that modern medicine categorizes some illnesses and health conditions, autism, as incurable because medicine does not address the things that cause them. If there's no medication or surgery for it or gene therapy, it's incurable. But that is the limits of modern medicine.
Yeah, and there's a whole spectrum, right? There's children that are autistic that aren't functioning. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They're so autistic they can't function at all. They can't even be put in school. And then there's many people you meet where like they're not diagnosed, but you're like, that person, there's a little something wrong with them. You know, you're a little bit autistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's a whole spectrum. And so, scientists don't even know what causes it, let alone they can't even categorize it into thinking, where does autism end and ADD start? You know what I mean? It's like, it's just a description of symptoms, or Asperger's, or ADHD, or all these different developmental disorders in children, It's all a giant blurred line. You know what I mean? It's hard to say, oh, your child is this, now has autism. But if it's this healthy, now it doesn't. You know what I mean? So that's important to realize. And then the same thing goes in regards to health. Are you healthy here? You can keep going. Make your child healthier and healthier.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't you're not unhealthy or healthy. There's a whole, range of degrees. And I think also
Yeah.
that, many doctors don't pay attention to gut health, and that has a
Yeah. Yeah.
profound effect on learning delays and autism and neurotransmitter health that promotes ADD. And
Hmm.
it's amazing what can be done when you have a brilliant physician or health practitioner that is
Yeah.
tending to minerals and detoxification. You can have
Hmm.
spectacular results.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, I have a question I like to ask all of my guests. What do you think is the most pressing health issue in the world today?
Most pressing health issue, probably what we're talking about. I can't think of anything more important than the children because they're the future. You know what I mean? And there's plenty of health, pressing health issues, but um, I can't think of honestly can't think of a better one than the one we're talking about, just because that's the future. You know what I mean? And if we can get the children healthy when they're young, it's so much easier. And as I'm sure you've known, it's so much harder to heal older people.
It
You know,
is. Yeah,
it's
their
it's
metabolisms are a lot slower and they have more
yeah.
toxins and it takes them
If
a
you
lot longer.
if you can just keep your body balanced throughout your life, you don't have to worry about all these things. It's a fantastic investment in your the rest of your life, and it's so
Yeah.
much, yeah, and it's so much easier to heal the children, and it's cheaper, more cost effective, it's easier, So if you're watching this, start your children when they're young, definitely.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you because, it's been predicted that this generation's lifespan is going to be shorter than their parents' generation, and that's so sad to think that we're going to become so much more victim of diabetes and heart disease, etc. That's all completely preventable. It's all lifestyle based. Lifestyle
Yeah,
being the food choices we make and supplements and getting enough
yeah.
sleep, etc.
And it's failure to thrive. You know what I mean? Life gets a lot easier when you have plenty of energy. Things like that. It's not only diseases like diabetes and things like that. It's hard to function when you have brain fog and you're carrying around all the emotional issues and things like that. Failure. Life life doesn't need to be like that.
Yeah, and the key to life, the key to health is energy, and you have to have minerals to have
Yeah.
energy. That's the
Yeah.
key.
Exactly.
You have to have
Yes.
energy to detox your body and to have your
Yeah.
brain functioning, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's why I
Exactly.
love minerals.
Yeah.
Well, Luke, thank you so much for coming on the show. Can you tell everyone where they can find you and anything you want them to know about yourself?
um. Probably my major media thing is I do YouTube videos once a week. They could just yeah, if they type in nutritional bouncing on YouTube search, they can find me, or they can just type in life with three eyes. I've recently actually switched my website and everything, and so they can just go to life with three eyes, so liiife.net, and then they can find me there under the contact page, and then same thing, typing that into YouTube. They can also find me as a practitioner on Dr. Wilson's website, drwilson.com. They can go there and find my contact information there. And then I do take free 10-minute consultations, Skype or phone, because a lot of people just have questions. They want to talk a little bit about what I can do for them and things like that. So I do tend to do free 10-minute consultations. And then also I encourage all pregnant women and children to go on a program, either with me or another practitioner. For women and children, I do offer discounts. I offer discounts for pregnant women or children 10 and under. I charge, quite a bit less, definitely. Just because, children are easy to work with, first of all, like we talked about. They heal quicker. So it's easier for me as a practitioner. And, and it's good sort of, charity work for the world, just to offer that cheaper. So it encourages people, at a younger age, and encourages pregnant mothers to, to go on a program, definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's very sweet of you. That's very nice of you
Yeah.
to do that. Well, Luke, thank you so much for coming on the show.
All right, thank you.
And stay tuned, listeners, if you want to learn more about how to heal your health conditions naturally and all kinds of recipes in the modern paleo diet and detoxification, go to my website, live110.com, and you can learn all about my new online health and healing program called Body Bio Rehab that's tending to the 5 pillars of health, diet, exercise, sleep, stress, and detoxification. Find that at bodybiorehab.com. Thank you so much for listening to the Live to 110 podcast.